Well, Gabby, as we kick off another podcast here, something that is not lost on many, and if it is, it shouldn't be, talking about the Olympics right now and the idea of the superstars showing up. Look no further than the top scorers at the Olympics. Number 1, Connor McDavid. Number 2, Macklin Celebrini. Number 3, Yuri Slavkovsky. Number 4, Sidney Crosby. Number 5, Auston Matthews. Number 6, Nathan MacKinnon. And of course, they all have in common former first overall picks, all of them. This has been a really interesting tournament. Some may say it's a little bit predictable, but that's fine as long as it ends up with Canada-US, which is what a lot of us are all sort of dreaming about. There have been some really good games, some interesting finishes. That Slovakia-Sweden finish is one for the ages. The team that lost actually won. The team that won actually lost. More on these things coming up over the next 60 minutes here on the program. So, just wide brush thoughts here for us, Gabby, and I want to get into the Tom Wilson situation in a second. Wide brush thoughts on what you've seen so far, what you've liked, maybe what you haven't liked, or what's piqued your interest.
Oh, dear. What have I liked? I mean, to me, it's been the script has been written, and they're following the script. There's been very little surprises in my mind. Maybe other than the fact that they haven't won, the teams that should have been favored and should be beating up on the other teams haven't won by as much, except for maybe the 11-0 and the 10-2 games that we've seen in the last couple of days. It's following the script to me. Like, I mean, right now it was, I'm probably the naysayer of everybody. Everybody wants to be positive. I'm going, the games have been pretty blah to me. Mm-hmm. But because when I look at the four nations and the pace of those games in the finals, and look at the Olympics and the pace of those games, it hasn't been close yet. But now it gets interesting. Now, I mean, when I got to believe it's going to be Sweden in the U.S. I mean, in the first quarterfinal, I got to believe that's going to be a heck of a game, and that's going to obviously determine who I think and will end up playing Canada for the gold medal. Secondly, like, Canada to me has been like a well-oiled machine. They just keep coming at you. And it started on the first shift when Connor McDavid had a great hit behind the net. But they're only playing as good as they have to be, quite frankly. I don't see the pace, the physicality of anything else. Excuse me. When you're playing a team when that is, like, say, when you're playing Italy, okay, and Italy has a 37-year-old that played in the East Coast League as their leading scorer. It's a far cry from an NHL player. So it's pretty hard. You don't want to destroy the poor guys but at the same time you want to win. But you want to win comfortably, and you don't want to win getting hurt. And you understand goal differential and stuff. But they haven't put their best foot forward, the teams that are playing the French and the Italians and stuff like that. But God love the other team for trying. I mean, that first game was a little bit of a scare. But you knew it was going to happen. It's like the miracle on ice. It's like the American college kids could have played the Russians at one time, and they did everything happened positively. But if you had played them 10 times, it would have been the Russians winning the next 9, and each game getting a little bit worse in the score. And I think that's what would have happened. But I'm so excited for this week to see the games, because I think you'll see it ramped up an awful lot. But that's just my opinion. And, maybe as a coach that has seen what I think is the best hockey in the world, or been right there on stage, it takes a little bit more to excite me than just a nice goal of 4 or 5 passes when nobody's doing anything to correct it.
Okay, so maybe did Tom Wilson intrigue you at all on Sunday with his fight with Pierre Crinon, and becomes, we believe, because I can't find any evidence to the contrary, the first player in the history of the Olympics to record the Gordie Howe hat trick? As we all know, he will not be suspended, not face further discipline. So he's good to go for Canada's next game, which will be against either Czechia or Denmark. But Gabby, we kept hearing there's no fighting in the Olympics. You're not allowed to fight, not allowed to drop your gloves, or you're done. Well, not so fast. And Tom Wilson probably didn't get that memo. Your thoughts on his fight when the whole situation around Pierre Crinon?
It really wasn't much of a fight unless when Tom Wilson had gotten up, he had gotten hold of him. Then it would have been a fight. And you know what? I was more interested. Who is this Crinon guy? I wanted to see him. He looks like a big man. I want to sign him up and see if he can play over in North America. But Tom Wilson is a special person, and he does these things. And you love him when you're on your team, and you hate him when he's against you because you know what he can do for his team. And it isn't just by end-to-end rushes and things like this. He's just a unicorn in that he can play, and he's 6'4" and he's 230 pounds, and he's got a gene in him that sort of snaps every now and again, which really keeps you on course.
So what I did is after that fight, I texted some people who had played with and were around the orbit of Pierre Crinon, because he played a couple of years junior hockey in the United States. He played 1 year in the USHL and 1 year in the NAHL. And here's what I got back. Big kid, played with an edge, just saw his fight with Tom Wilson. Thank God it ended quickly. To which another person said, to someone that played with him, was Pierre drunk? He was scared of his own shadow when we played, and he knows that Tom Wilson is never playing in France. And there's also a story about him losing his temper in practice and took a slap shot at a teammate and then skated off the ice. That is everything that I know and I can share with you about Pierre Crinon, who will now go down in infamy as the player that Tom Wilson fought at the Olympics. Welcome.
Let
me
be the devil's advocate here. Let me be the devil's advocate here. How long ago was that? Okay, like I've seen some 17-year-old juniors be scared of their own shadow, and I don't know how old this guy is now, but he looked mature, and he was giving Tom Wilson the come on with me. Like, I mean, I think sometimes there's a big difference. And when you're a big man, and he looks like a very big man, and I'm not defending him at all. I just wonder if he's 25 now and he's matured, you can't teach size in the NHL. And so I don't know if he's any good at all, but no.
He played in 2014-15. He played 1 game with Sioux City and the USHL, and he played for the Corpus Christi Ice Rays in the NAHL, 42 games. He's 6'4", 220 now, by the way. Both these 2 leagues, in the 1 year he was in North America playing junior hockey, in 2014, 2015, in 42 games, he had 108 penalty minutes, and then it was back to France, and he's now playing pro in Grenoble, which is where one of your favorites was always hailed from, and that is, of course, Andre the Giant. And this guy was not as big as Andre the Giant, although their goaltender looked as big as Andre the Giant. Pierre Crinon is.
What do they grow up in those mountains?
No kidding. They grow humongous pro wrestlers and large goaltenders in defense. But nonetheless, he goes down as the answer to a trivia question. Welcome to the Hockey Lifers, presented by, as always, PenFed Credit Union. Great rates for everyone. Okay, welcome back to the podcast. Jeff Merrick alongside Bruce Boudreau, as always. Want to mention as well, coming up in about 15, 20 minutes time here, Gabby, we'll talk to Brian Burke, former NHL general manager. Burke actually played in the American Hockey League, won the Calder Cup with the Maine Mariners, was an agent in the NHL, an NHL executive, NHL general manager, key media member for a long time and a big piece of USA hockey, culminating in a silver medal for USA in 2010. We'll get into all of that with Berkey coming up in short order. Just to pick up one quick casual hockey fans probably think about Tom Wilson one very specific way. Are hockey fans now learning that this isn't just, some caveman that throws coconuts off the wall, that, the rest of the NHL has sort of woken up to, like, there is a lot of skill in Tom Wilson?
If you're asking me, I've known that from the beginning, but I think it's the caveman part that scares everybody from him, because at any point in time, that caveman can come out of him. And like, even after that fight where he didn't look like he wanted to get in it, like the guy threw him down a little bit, and he's going, I'm sure he's thinking, I don't want to get into a fight, don't want to get kicked out.
Yeah.
And then he gets up and he goes, something happened, and then he snapped a little bit and then sort of held back. But I mean, I just love his hockey playing ability. He's not Connor McDavid by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a really good hockey player that has an added toughness to him that I like.
Playing with Con McDavid and Macklin Celebrini. Now, Celebrini is the kid that's turning everybody's heads. If you live in the East and you don't stay up to watch your San Jose Sharks game, you might want to start paying attention to just how good Macklin Celebrini is. Like, Gabby, he's mixing in right there with Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby. He's playing like he's been in the league for 10 years, and this is only his sophomore season in the NHL.
And he's not looking,
it's ridiculous.
He's not looking out of place at all. Like, I mean, not looking out of place. He's looking like he's almost bringing the other guys into the fight a lot of the time. And I thought it was a perfect example on his penalty shot. Like, I would have bet a fortune that he wasn't going to deke, that he's the kind of guy like Sidney Crosby that's going to come in and I'm going to just shoot the puck. It's going to go in, and that's what's going to happen. And his hands were so lightning quick, one little move and a shot, that the goalie had no chance on it. But that was a telling sign to me that this kid is not only going to be a leader. San Jose is very lucky. I think that, just with him in the base, if they can, and Will Smith, and if they get a couple other guys, they're going to be cup contenders in a very, very short time. And that'll really grow hockey in San Jose again, because I think it was dying a little bit the last 5 years when they weren't in any playoffs or stuff. So he's resurrecting hockey in Northern California, and maybe in other places too. So I think it's great.
Sticking with that penalty shot. So did some snooping around yesterday about it. I mean, it's rare at the Olympics. Crosby had a penalty shot once, didn't score. Corey Perry had a penalty shot in the Olympics, didn't score. And here's Macklin Celebrini scoring. So Macklin Celebrini, here's what I can tell you. Macklin Celebrini is a huge fan of Nikita Kucherov. Loves him. And that is, if you look at that move by Celebrini yesterday, that's a Kucherov breakaway. That's a Kucherov penalty shot. That's the Kucherov shootout move. It's called the 7-hole between the blocker and the chest protector, as we all know. And you get the goaltender moving, you expose that hole, and you hit it. That's the Kucherov. So talking to people yesterday, for the last month and a half in San Jose, that's what he's been working on. And everybody in San Jose on Sunday, when they saw Macklin Celebrini going to the dot, were all saying the same thing. He's doing the Kucherov. He's going to do the Kucherov shot. And sure enough, he came down. And if you go frame to frame with Macklin Celebrini and Nikita Kucherov, that's the Kucherov shot. And I wonder about this one, because, Gabby, you've seen this for decades. Players respecting other players and borrowing moves from them, learning from them. We just mentioned this kid's been in the NHL for a year and a half, and already he's like, I'm going to do that Kucherov move. I'm going to do that Kucherov breakaway, that Kucherov penalty shot. When you hear that story about Celebrini doing the Kucherov and been practicing it the last 6 weeks before the Olympics, what goes through your mind?
Well, the first thing that goes through my mind is, hey, listen, if it works for him, why wouldn't it work for me? Let me try it. And let me practice it. Let me see if I can't get it good. I mean, we all take from everybody else. I mean, coaches take from other coaches. Players, when I was a player, I'd watch some player. If he could do a move that I thought was great, I would be trying that thing in practice, left, right, and center. And obviously I could never get it because I wasn't as good as the player that did it. But it's something we all try to emulate and cheat and practice it. And so, I mean, here's a guy that sees something and he goes out and does it. Wayne Gretzky used to do this all the time. He used to watch players without the puck and just draw lines of where they're going and skating, and that's what he would do when he had the puck. So, I mean, the great ones have that vision and that intelligence that they can do things like that, where us normal guys, they don't think of those things. But this is where their head is thinking. So when he's thinking that, like when he came down, I'm sitting there going, it's going to be a quick hand shot. I didn't know it was called the Kucherov, but I mean, I didn't think he was going to come from right to left and try to do a swoop and come back and everything else. To me, he's a meat and potatoes player, and he was just showing the meat and potatoes right there. A good move, great shot, and then no real celebration. I scored. Let's go to the bench.
It's got to be. There's a great picture too of him going down the bench after scoring, and right there is, you know, one of his childhood idols, Sidney Crosby, on the bench with a big smile. Everyone's got their gloves out for the high fives and the fist bumps. Like, what goes through your mind as a kid when like one of your heroes is waiting to high five you going down the bench after you just scored for your team? Like, I know we're getting to the point here of saying that, you know, Macklin Celebrini invented oxygen in San Jose, but how much more can we say about this kid?
Yeah, you can't say much more, but I mean, you're going to say a lot more, because it's going to be a very short period of time when they're going to get San Jose is going to get even better players. And instead of getting 115 points this year or 120 points, he's going to be getting the 140 and 150, and he's going to be right up there. So you'll be talking about it all the time. So, I mean, it's he's one of those guys. Like when we saw Sidney Crosby at 20 years old, we knew he was going to be great. We just didn't put him at the top of the pedestal because there was still Lemieux and guys hanging around. But this is where this guy's going to be in 5 years when Sid is done and Ovi is done and all of these great players are getting a little bit older and getting less points. This guy is the one that's going to be leading the pack every year.
So just so we're all on the same page here. So USA faces off against the winner of Sweden and Latvia. Canada takes on the winner of Czechia, Denmark, Slovakia, who kind of get an easy draw here. They face off against the winners of Germany and France. Finland will take on the winners of Switzerland and Italy. Things get reseeded after those games. After, you know, Canada plays either Czechia, Denmark, US, Sweden, Latvia, etc. On the United States side, a couple of players. One, Quinn Hughes, who continues to play elevated minutes. I think Quinn Hughes is playing around 22, which, considering it was just the round robin, you might look at and say, hey, you might want to rest him a little bit and not just keep firing him over the boards. But you're a coach, Gabby. You know, when Quinn Hughes says he's ready to go, it's like when Bobby Orr used to put his hand on the bench. His hand on the boards. That was the message to Don Cherry that it's time to send him back out there. When Quinn Hughes says he's ready to go, you put him back out there. But I keep coming back to Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel looks so good. Jack Eichel, to me, so far has been the best player for the United States and one of the best players at this tournament, full stop. Agree or disagree?
I'd have to say he's the best forward on the team, and he showed it. I mean, him and Brady Tkachuk. Brady Tkachuk has been changing games. Like, he's the one guy that's playing the same way every game. He's hitting, he's forcing, he's scoring the odd goal. But when you look at Eichel and how smooth he is with the puck and how he's making these plays, you're going, man, I really hope. And we can only sit there and hope that it ends up Canada and the U.S., because I think that'll be, you know, and then I think I would change the rules to a 2 out of 3 right there. And because I think it would be unbelievable to see these guys play more than one game.
How much carnage do these hockey players have to go back to their NHL teams? We've already got injuries and wounded soldiers going back here, Gabby. How much more carnage do you want before they get back to the NHL?
A, I'm not coaching, and B, I'm not playing. I just want to be entertained. And these guys would entertain me till no end. So, I mean, I think it's not only that, it's like the emotion they play with. The emotion they play with in these small tournaments is what gets me tingling all the time. And I'm huge on that, and that's why I can't wait to see it. But you're right. There's some draws that are easier than others. If you go to the quarterfinal game and it's the U.S. and Sweden, that could be just as good as as Canada, the U.S., and somebody's going to be out right away.
Let me ask you about that specific. Let me ask you about Sweden here. We're gonna bring Brian Burke aboard here in a couple of seconds. Let me ask you about Sweden. Every single tournament. Now I know they have had success at the Olympics. They've won the gold medal in Italy before, but something really seems off with Sweden. I don't quite. Maybe it's like the lack of depth down the middle. Perhaps the goaltending. Perhaps the injuries. I'm a huge fan of Jonas Brodin, and if you're gonna and you had him, you know how good this guy is. Like as far as like hard matching and getting him out there against the big boys, he's an easy decision for Sam Hallam, the coach of the of Sweden. When you look at Sweden this year, I keep coming back to this idea that they should be better than they've showed. When you look at the skill and the experience, all of it, and I don't know what it is. And it's almost historic with the Swedes too. I don't get it, Gabby. On paper, they should be way better.
I'll tell you what's going on. In my humble opinion of just watching TV, I don't talk to anybody. Okay. The first game they play Italy. All right. And they keep OEL on the bench for the whole game. They keep Forsberg on the bench against Italy, except for one shift. I think the players are looking behind them going, what, you don't believe that these guys can help and beat in Italy? And I think the bench and everything got so discombobulated that that was the game. We said, we're going to win, but this is stupid if we're shortening the bench against Italy in game one. And then I think that went a long ways into game two. And then they started playing those guys and becoming more of a team. And then in game three, they were much better again. But I mean, they started to get back to who they were. But I think the first two games, the coach totally screwed it up by pulling a power trip. And that, to me, these are all NHL stars that are big time players in their team. They won't say nothing, but they just looked and said, hey, whoa, boys, we're playing friggin' Italy. Let's give everybody some ice time here. And I think that's what happened. But I think they'll be really good in the second half.
We shall see. They will face off against Latvia. The winner of that game faces off against the United States. Speaking of the United States, someone who has experience in, along with USA Hockey, running Team USA at the Olympic Games is a former NHL general manager, former agent, former player, winner of the Calder Cup with the Maine Mariners, as we mentioned, and media superstar, the one and only Brian Burke, who joins us on the Hockey Lifers. I don't know if you have anything more to add to the bio or the business card, Brian Burke, but am I leaving anything out? Stanley Cup champion, of course.
You're leaving one thing out. I used to share an office with Bruce Boudreau.
Oh, yeah? Let's hear the story.
Well, he was a spy.
I took a job with Bob Murray to work for the Ducks after I got fired in Toronto. And I had nowhere to sit, so I went down and sat in the office with the coaches. And they don't know what I'm there for. They don't say a word to me for 3 days. Finally, I sit down with Gabby. I say, Gabby, I'm not a spy. Bob Murray didn't tell me to watch and report back on what you say. I'm not keeping track of any conversations. I'm just here because I got nowhere else to sit. We got along fine after that.
Gabby?
We had to get through that because Murph was a guy that was a little suspicious sometimes. So, I mean, the first thoughts was always, hey, because the year before he sent Jeff Nonis Dave Nonis was down there. And like he would just be quiet and be in the corner. And I'm going, okay, what's going on? So here comes Berkey. Thank God I knew Berkey a little bit better than I knew Dave. And we ended up getting along fine, just sharing a lot of stories in the short time that we were together. But at the beginning, when Bob Murray sends somebody down or you're just sharing your office, you're going, what is the bottom line here? What is he trying to get out of me? So I was a little nervous about it.
And it has happened in other teams. Other teams have sent spies, and we all know that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How was Gabby as an office mate, and Gabby, how was Brian as an office mate?
Well, Gabby was great. He's a funny guy. He's got an endless supply of stories. He can make you laugh. He's a great guy to hang with.
Yeah, and you know what I found with Brian, and I don't want to embarrass him here or not, but listen, he was a guy that let coaches coach when he was managed. Like, I mean, and I thought in our conversations downstairs, that's what, like, I mean, he always wanted to, if you wanted to give him input or him to give input, he would, but he was always there to support rather than to knock down. And I found that anywhere I went as a coach, that is what you want as a coach. You want the support from above. Here's the guy that hired you. Yeah, he might be mad at you, and we can have those conversations. But the support was there through Brian. And by the end, when we had lost, by the end of the season, by the time he had left, I was very, very comfortable talking to him and listening to not only what he had to say, but what he had to say made sense to me, but I took it in a different grain of salt than I would as if he was coming back and down and always just giving me shit type thing. So I was really appreciative of that, and I think our relationship has gotten a lot better ever since then too.
I agree.
All right, Berkey, first of all, and we'll use this as the entry point to talk about the Olympics. Your coffee mug is elite. Can we get that back up on the screen there? That coffee mug is one of the most elite mugs I've seen in a long time. I'm kind of a big deal. You always have been, Berkey, going back to your days at Providence. Who's been a big deal for you at the Olympics? If you could isolate one or two, we talked about the Wilson fight. Curious your thoughts on that one, Celebrini and Jack Eichel, but who's done it for you? Who's popped for Brian Burke?
Well, I wouldn't call that a fight. It was a wrestling match. It looked like Tom Wilson was trying to be careful going in, and the French guy started the fight, really, and threw him down. I think, and that's when he got mad, went back into the pile. So it wasn't really a fight, but I love the sticking together part of it. I love that, always. To me, who's been exceptional, the usual suspects plus Celebrini. Celebrini's been... He's so far ahead of where he should be. It's unreal.
Gabby?
He's still a teenager, right? He's still 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's playing like he's 29.
The thing that we were mentioning about Celebrini a second ago, and you're right, Berkey. Like he's well beyond his years. Like this guy's been playing like he's been in the NHL for 10 years. I'm always wondering about where the game is going to be in the next 5 years. Where's the game going to be in the next 10 years? What really impresses me is the way the other guys talk about him. Like the way Crosby talks about him, the way McKinnon talks about him, the way McDavid talks about him. I always have to catch myself. He's only been in the league a year and a half, Berkey. Like, I don't know how much more I'm going to be able to say about Macklin Celebrini. It sounds like we've already said a ton.
Well, Connor Bedard's going to be a really good player in our league, and he didn't make the team. And everyone said, oh, Connor Bedard should be on. I think you can see the difference between Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini right now.
Yeah.
It's advancement. Celebrini is more advanced as a hockey player. He's more complete. He thinks the game better. He thinks the game quicker. Connor Bedard's going to be a star. He's going to be a really good player. He's just not as good as Macklin is now.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think he's about 2 years behind. And the play, where he's behind to me is when I look at the play without the puck. And Bedard is always just sort of circling, wanting the puck, whereas Celebrini's going and getting the puck, or he's back checking and putting pressure on. And I don't see that part of Bedard's game is much better this year at that, but it's not to the level that they're doing at the Olympics at this stage. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but that's when I look at them, it's like Celebrini is way more of a straight line player, where Bedard is more of a east-west player. Does that make sense?
Yes, I agree. He's a 200-foot player too, which is I hate that term. It's grossly overused. A 200-foot player is a Marchand, guy who plays every inch of the ice. And most players I call them 3-zone players, guys that are decent defensively, but not 200-foot players. Celebrini's going to be a 200-foot player.
Well, technically right now at the Olympics, nobody's a 200-foot player. The rink is shorter. So he's a 197-foot player. Can we compromise there? He's a 197-foot player with aspirations to 200. Now, Gabby, I know the answer to this, but I think considering our previous conversation, you're going to really like it, hearing it come from Brian Burke. All right. Canada, US, Slovakia, Finland, Czechia, Denmark, Sweden, Latvia, Germany, France, Switzerland, Italy. Brian Burke, are there too many teams in this tournament?
That's a BP fastball or softball. I mean, it's I can't. I'm watching the Olympics. I'm watching events I didn't even know existed. I'm watching athletes I'll never hear of again. It's too big, and I've agreed going into the Olympics. I'm going to drop my rant, but we could do the Olympics in 10 days easily with 8 teams. We could play a best of 3 for the gold medal and still have less time than we use now with a smaller field. But we'll save that for another day.
Okay, let me hit you on this one then. The United States and Canada, everybody's sort of looking for this as the dream matchup and the dream final here. Is there any team that you think can throw sand in the gears of making sure this doesn't happen?
Well, any team, Belarus has done it in the past, Latvia's done it in the past, anyone can do it. It's a short tournament. You just need a hot goaltender and some great team play. But in general, the team that scared me coming in was Sweden. Like, everyone knows about Canada, everyone knows about the U.S., but Sweden to me was the best non-North American team, followed closely by Finland. But Sweden's been a disappointment. I overheard the end of Gabby's talk about the coach. I don't get it. Managing ice time that way and pissing off your team for no good reason, I don't get it. But I think the Swedes are going to be a big problem now.
What do you think, Gab?
Yeah, well, unless they sort of shake their head and say, okay, we're starting fresh. And I think they've had to have it. All the management has had to have talk with the players and saying, what's wrong? How can we, why weren't we emotionally involved in the first 3 games? And they came to an understanding. Then I think they're in trouble. If not, if they can, to me, it's not hard to turn it on now because now everybody knows it really just starts. And they start to play their best. If they play their best, it's going to be a heck of a. They'll beat Latvia, and the U.S. and them will have a great game. With Finland, the only thing, man, how good would Finland have been if Barkov was there? That would have been a real difference maker. But it's not. So what are you going to do? So I think this week will be 5 times more exciting as last week when it comes to hockey. And I'm looking forward to those big games because I think that they're going to be more North American style. How many hits have we seen in the tournament yet? Anytime somebody's bumped them, everybody's going, whoa, but those bumps have been few and far between. I think there's going to be a lot of physicality when these NHL teams play against each other right now.
I agree. I love the fact that the officiating appears to have caught up with the European officials that are working. The standard is caught up with more to an NHL standard. They're not making as many poor calls. I'm happy about that.
That's a great point too. I think we're all waiting for that head slapping, that forehead slapping, eyeball rolling call that we're used to seeing at international events. And you're right, Berkey. Like, we haven't. Now there are NHL officials over there, and that helps, but we haven't seen that. And that's a good thing for the sport internationally.
Do you want to know, Jeff, what a fight it was to get NHL referees at Nagano? It took me 3 weeks. But it took me 3 weeks to fighting with the IHF to get NHL referees. They said, we'll pick the referees. I said, no, you won't. These games are going to be officiated by NHL officials. It took 3 weeks, and Gary Bettman backed me up on it. God bless him. And finally, I think the compromise was, if 80% of the players are NHL players, they have to be NHL officials. Well, all the top teams, it was 80%. Or there's some formula. But the NHL guys worked all the games. Now it's more, they've watered it down more, but I do agree, or I do like the fact that they've changed the officiating standard to blend into more of an NHL standard.
That's a great 100%. One.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And listen, on behalf of hockey, Berkey, thank you for getting that ball rolling. Let me ask you about 2010. It's the golden goal by Sidney Crosby. Boy, was Ryan Miller ever good. Like that may be the best I've ever seen Ryan Miller play. He was just exceptional for USA all the way right to the end. Like when Parisi scored that goal to tie things up, I kept thinking to myself, Miller's not letting another goal in. Like he's just having that game. He's not letting another goal in. Take us back to your Olympic experiences. What jumps to mind for you right away?
Well, we were picked to finish sixth in that tournament. No one picked Canada or U.S. to win anything. We were supposed to finish out of the money. We weren't supposed to beat anyone. But our team believed in ourselves, and we did have Ryan Miller, who was excellent. And that was the difference. And I think Ron Wilson was the coach. He coached with an underdog mentality. No one wants us to do anything. No one expects us to do anything, so we're going to shock the world. And we did. And it was it went to overtime in the gold medal game, obviously. But I think we were the second best team in the tournament, but we were never picked there.
Well, it was a hell of a game too, by the way. It just, if you're Canadian, it ended up the way it's supposed to go. But it could have gone either way. Both teams were great, and I'm glad it happened in North America because that's what made it even better, I think. So. That's what I think about that 2010. But I wanted to ask you another question, Brian. The stuff that I get, what do you guys do now? They're off for a couple days now. Does the team get together every day? Do they probably have a day off today? Do they practice and then all go to dinner together, or are they allowed to sort of go on their own and just meet at a certain place at night or something? Or do you try to keep everybody together?
Well, it's a great question, Gabby. We stayed in the village, so our guys would eat together in the village at the dining facility, which I think is really cool because you're in at lunchtime or supper time having dinner, and there's speed skaters and figure skaters and bobsleigh, like all the different athletes around, which is pretty cool. But we did have a secret weapon, which was Dario's Italian Kitchen, which is where we ate all of our pregame meals. Lou Vero had found this place. I'd eaten there many years before, but Lou Vero had discovered Dario's Italian Kitchen. That's where we ate all our meals. So that's where we had our pregames. We might go in there and have a beer once in a while. You never know.
I think we know. Was there one guy on that team? Like I always think about the Boston Bruins of the early 70s, right? Like Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito had this sort of the unwritten rule that, after every game, everyone had to go together to a restaurant, to a bar, and have one beer. After that, you're on your own, but we all went for one beer together as a team. Was there one guy or a couple of guys on your 2010 team that made sure everybody stayed together? Was there anyone like that?
Well, Jamie Langenbrunner was our captain. I think he did a really good job, but I'm not sure the beer part. I really don't know because we weren't included in that. Seriously, we'd have a beer at the rink. We'd have a beer in the dressing room at GM Place or whatever it was called back then. GM Place. We'd have a beer with the guys, but I remember one of the funniest stories I've ever heard is, so they select two athletes for doping, and they wait for you. They have these blue suits on, these blue track suits on, and they wait for you as you leave the ice, and they stay with you. Even if you go to the washroom, they come out, they sit outside the stall. Even if you go to the shower, they sit outside the shower. These two guys are sitting there looking, and I finally said to the guy, "Who are these two jerks in the room?" The guy said, "Oh, the doping guys, they have to stay." So I said, "Who are they here for?" And he said, "Phil Kessel." And Ryan Whitney said, "Boy, are you guys going to be disappointed when he takes his shirt off."
That's awesome. Berkey, we'll end on this one. You're always really generous with your time, and we thank you for it. Thoughts on what the rest of the tournament looks like to you? I know that some of the games may have been underwhelming getting here, but as Gabby mentioned, now all of a sudden, this tournament starts to grow fangs a little bit. What are you looking forward to?
Well, number one question is Jordan Binnington for me, because John Cooper's shown so much faith in him, and so far it's worked. But I think a lot of people are holding their breath a little bit, saying, what happens if he stumbles? I believe in Jordan Binnington. I think he'll be the guy. I think Canada's the team to beat. I think Jordan Binnington's going to be the goalie of record. But I think that's the biggest fear if I'm John Cooper, is I've thrown all my faith behind Jordan Binnington. Oh, I hope I'm right.
Would be a great story.
It's absolute too. Like, I mean, the move has been made. You can't change. And if you ever had to pull Jordan Binnington, it's because things aren't going good right now. And then you would be questioned. But I mean, they made their move. That's the guy they were going with. And Berkey as an executive, as a player, everything else, that, I mean, if you have faith in the guy beside you, it makes it so much easier for you and for him, because the confidence level is up. If you don't have faith, everything you touch is you're going, oh, I got to worry about this, I got to worry about that. And I think that the Canadian team right now has faith in Binnington, especially the guys that have played with him at the Four Nations before.
I believe that, but I believe Jordan Binnington is also on a very short leash without being told that. I think that John Cooper has gone to the backup goalie and said, look, Jordan's our guy. You got to be ready. You got to be ready on short notice because he's on a Chihuahua leash.
Stay in push-up position. He's on the Chihuahua leash. That's an awesome line. Burkey, you're a big deal. Your mug says it, and we all know it. You be good. Enjoy the rest of the tournament. Thanks for stopping by with me and Bruce today.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks Gabby.
Brian.
So there he is, Gabby, your former office mate, Brian Burke, and we thank Brian for his time today and dropping by the podcast. What did you think? I know you mentioned it to him when he came on, but like, hey, Brian, what are you doing here?
Well, no, I know him pretty well. We've sort of like since that time. Like, I mean, I remember him first. One thing about Brian, let me put it this. He came into my office one time when I had never met him, just to introduce himself to me when he was part of a visiting team. And I was, and then we ended up talking about that Calder Cup team because I played against Maine that year. And I said, Burkey, I don't remember you. He didn't like that. But I mean, you were never on the ice when I was on the ice. So, and that's why you got into management, but that's okay. But I mean, he's been super nice to me. We meet up at the hockey school every year and go out for a beer and just for a conversation. I went to a wedding with him this summer. I find him, if he wanted to, and to sit back the stories he could tell people, because we also didn't mention that he was in charge of player safety too in the NHL at one point. So I mean, he's done every job that you can do except coaching in the NHL, but he understood coaches, which is one of the main reasons I really liked him.
Do you have time for a quick story about that? One of my favorite stories. I think you'll like this one. This sort of appeals to the old school in a lot of, and this has been corroborated by Marty McSorley, who told me this one too. So I got it on two sources. I got Marty, who was involved, and I got Burkey, who was the head of it wasn't called the head of the Department of Player Safety then, but essentially he was the sheriff of the NHL, and he was the one that meted out suspensions. So Marty McSorley told me he always wanted to fight Eric Lindros, always wanted to. And Eric never did it. Would never oblige. Would never do it. Now Marty was like one of the toughest to ever do it. Not that Eric wasn't strong too, but Eric always stayed away from Marty McSorley. And finally, one game, Eric scores a goal, and McSorley takes a run at him after the goal, and Eric instinctively throws down his gloves, and they're in a fight. And Eric gets real close and bites him, as the story goes. And Brian Burke and so like, you can understand, like, the media is going crazy with this, have to suspend Eric Lindros. You get the deal. And Brian catches wind of this, of course. He's head of the Department of Player Safety or whatever it was called then, and calls Marty and says, Marty, we're going to ring up Lindros. All I need you to do is tell me that he bit you. And Marty goes, I don't know. Burkey, was a fight. A lot of things happen in a fight. I don't really know. And Brian says, Marty, I need to know, did he bite you or not? And Marty goes, geez, Brian, I'm not sure. I can't really say. I don't know. Marty's with the code, right? And Brian says, okay, Marty, it's the last time I'm going to ask you. The final time, all right, because I can't do anything unless you tell me. Did he bite you? And Marty says he paused and said, Brian, Eric Lindros did not bite me. Now you call Bob Clark, who was the general manager of the team, you call Bob Clark and tell him he owes me one. Can you imagine that happening today? Like, you want to talk about the code? Just the line, you call Bobby Clark and tell him he owes me one, is such a perfect little hockey moment. And Brian talks about that in his book.
And you know what? If you knew Marty, I played with him for a couple years. I mean, in private, he would have described the bite by each tooth mark that went into his head. Because he used to tell us, how good a baseball player he was. And I said, Marty, how good were you? He says, well, I could see the stitches on the ball turning, and I knew all the time whether it was a curve or a fastball. And we're going, yeah. And that's how he got his nickname, Magic, because everything he did was magic back then. So, I mean, he was a funny dude in 1984. I know that.
Marty's a wonderful guy and one of the toughest to ever do it. Pick up the conversation about a couple of things there. I thought that Brian's point about Jordan Binnington and the Chihuahua leash, first of all, if hockey ever had a poet, it's between you and Brian Burke, because that's a great line. So Jordan Binnington on the Chihuahua leash, do you have a thought on that one? And, how quickly could you see John Cooper going to Logan Thompson?
I could see it happening if definitely if they got a third goal in the first period, for sure. Or if they got a bad goal and it was the third one in the second period. Those things are automatic. Listen, basically from now on, it's a one-game tournament. If you sit there and say, hey, I like the guy, I got to give him a break and this, boy, you're going to be done quicker than anything else. You've got to make decisions right there. If this guy has two bad shifts, I can't play him anymore. This is how quick you got to be on your feet when you're either coaching or especially coaching in a tournament like this. It's crazy, and each mistake will cost you. I'll tell you a quick story about the Spengler Cup. I mean, when I went over there to coach in the Spengler Cup, okay, it's the same thing. I don't know any of the players. All these guys are playing in Europe. Half of them are in their 30s, have never played in North America before. But that being what it said, we were winning in the semifinal game 3-2. And I guess this top scorer over there, he was like I'm looking at him and I'm going, he's walking up and down the bench going, play me in the last 5 minutes, right? And I'm not knowing this guy. And I'm going, oh, he wants a shift in the last 5 minutes here. He can't check his ass. And I go up to him and I said, I'm putting you out there to defend. We don't need a goal. Okay. But you're walking up and down the bench. Everybody's looking at you and you're cursing in this. Go out and show me. He gets out there. He hangs out at the red line. His guy comes in. No. They score. They tie it up. And I could have shot him. And I was so mad at myself. It's too bad that I wasn't coaching anymore, because it was such a learning point, is not to give in to these guys because they all want to play or all pretend they want to play. But in the end, they don't do the right thing. So I was pretty mad at the guy. Anyway, that's my Spengler Cup story.
That's an excellent story. I believe the phrase is "check your hat." This guy wouldn't check his hat.
Yeah,
just to save his life. Listen, let me ask you about one more thing. We haven't talked about him, and I think he's coming off the disappointing playoff performances with the Toronto Maple Leafs, to say nothing about what happened last year at the Four Nations. Do you have a thought on Auston Matthews? A, captain of Team USA, and B, Auston Matthews in this tournament and now heading to knockout games?
Well, I think, obviously I watch all the Leaf games and I think he's a great player, but I think in these things, and I don't know Auston, so I may be way off base, but I mean, I don't think he's an emotional leader. I don't see the emotion that he can command that just goes up, boys, we got to be better. We got to do this. He's not an emotional leader. And I mean, it's nice that he scored 2 goals and you could see some emotion on his face. But I mean, I need that the same as when I watch him with the Leafs when they're down. I almost need him to bang his stick along the boards and say, boys, follow me. I'm going to and run a guy and stuff like that. So I don't see the emotional leader in him as if I see Sid or Connor, and if they're down, they're not gonna fight, but they're gonna do something special that shows the team that, hey, boys, we got to get to it. Or even like a Brady Tkachuk, who will run a guy, or Matthew Tkachuk, and that's the only thing I don't see with Auston Matthews. Great player, but I think he would prefer not to be the captain of either team and just be able to play and not be the guy that you go to. That's just when I watch him play the way I feel.
I wonder if, the future of international hockey in the United States has a C on one of the Tkachuk boys sweaters. Agree, disagree?
I agree. Like, I would look at Brady, and he's an emotional good player. Finishes. It's like he wants to be the guy that says, get on my back, I'm going to carry you. And yeah. I think in these kind of tournaments, you need that one guy when things aren't going as well as they'd like to.
All right, let's get a couple of things in here before we wrap up the program. And again, this is Monday. It's a day off on the men's side. U.S. will face the winner of Sweden, Latvia. Canada faces off against the winner of Czechia and Denmark. All right. Hey, Gabby, this comes to us from TRJ, who submits this one. And for your chance to ask Gabby a question, please use the hashtag HeyGabby. Please ask Bruce to rank the following devastating elbows from most to least. Sandis Philamanis on Charlie McAvoy. We saw that, Florida-Boston. The Rock's People's Elbow. Messier on Mike Modano, Macho Man Randy Savage's flying elbow from the top rope, or, and this is a sneaky good contender, Pavel Bure on Shane Churla. Oh, that was a nasty one. I would also throw in Alex Kovalev on Darcy Tucker, but when you hear those mixed in between hockey and pro wrestling, 2 great loves of ours, Gabby, essentially, let me synthesize it to this. Who threw the best elbows?
Well, I know you can't tell me before the show, but 3 of those I haven't even seen. So, I mean, I can't really count them. But I would say the best elbow I ever saw, okay? And it's none of those. But it is Gordie Howe, who we were talking about earlier. Yeah. When I was in the WHA, he was playing for the Houston Aeros, and he was playing, and Henry Boucher, who was a really tough guy on the Minnesota Fighting Saints, he played for the Detroit Red Wings, and he was a good player. But he said, I'm going to get that Gordie Howe. And we said, okay, yeah. Well, this is before the game. We're listening to him. And then there's one time it's coming across the blue line. And everybody knows, if you ever get to see Gordie's stuff, I mean, he did it so subtly, nobody even knew. So Henry Boucher's coming across the blue line. Gordie's going the other way. And all of a sudden, Henry's down and he's out. And I mean, they stretcher him off. He's got a broken jaw. And then all you saw was the right elbow coming across as quick as lightning, hitting him square in the jaw, and him done. And I think that was the beginning of the end of Henry's career. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, listen, now throw in pro wrestling then. People's Elbow or Randy Macho Man Savage?
The Rock's elbow was horrible. Like, I mean, he hits the guy in the boob. He gives it like this, and he hits him in the boob when he's falling down. Now, I don't know about you, but if you hit me on the flat side of your arm in the boob, I'm not hurting. But Macho Man sometimes connected from the top rope. So his was a lot worse than the Rock's. And the other guys, I haven't seen them yet. So
here
I can't give you an answer there.
So I have a theory about elbowing in the NHL. as a call, it doesn't actually exist. It doesn't actually exist. It's not a call. And here's my thinking behind it. When have you ever seen an elbowing call when the point of contact wasn't the head? Technically, all it is that's a head contact. That's a head contact penalty. That's contact to the head, which is a penalty in the NHL. Have you ever seen anyone called for elbowing someone's shoulder or elbowing someone's back or to the people's elbow, elbowing someone's boob? Have you ever seen that? No. Elbowing is only elbowing when it's a hit to the head. That to me is contact to the head. It's not elbowing because it can only be elbowing if the point of contact is the head. So to me, elbowing doesn't exist as a call. I
will argue with you, young man.
Okay.
And here's the argument. That call hit to the head has only been in for about the last 10, 15 years.
Correct.
It used to be elbowing.
Correct.
Okay. And so you used to be able to elbow a guy in the head, and it was elbowing. There was no hit to the head call until concussions became prevalent. And I will tell you the best elbow ever, now that we're talking about it, my memory is clings. In the American League in 1982 probably was, I was going for the scoring championship against a guy by the name of Ross Yates. Okay. And Ross Yates was a really good scorer. And he came running at me once, and I had those little Jofa elbow pads that just covered your elbow.
Oh, geez.
And he came at me, and I put my elbow up, and he wanted to run me so hard, and he ran right into my elbow and knocked out all his teeth. Okay. Like his bottom 5 teeth. And so little did I know, because that was near the end of the season, that the next year I went to Europe and to play, and Ross Yates was in Europe, and I met him in the first game at the first face-off, and he said, "Every day I was in the dentist chair, I was thinking I want to kill you." Never forget that. I didn't think I'd see him again, and here he was. His teeth were all misaligned and everything else, but he never got me. So, but I'll never forget him saying that.
That's the follow-up question. Did he ever take another run at you again, or did you learn your lessons from Gordie Howe?
I learned a lot from Gordie Howe, but no, he never got me. I mean, he might have tried to run at me, but he never got me. I was either too slick or too scared. One of the two.
And that was my point. Now there is a head contact penalty. Historically, elbowing existed, but now that there's a head contact penalty, elbowing should go the way of the dodo bird. It's just head contact, because like you go and elbow someone when the NHL returns, elbow them in the chest, you're going to get an elbowing penalty? No. Referees look at that and say, play on. Same thing to the head. It's an elbowing penalty. It's the same infraction.
I can buy that.
There's no such thing as elbowing in the NHL rulebook. All it is head contact. Okay, let me close with this one. That's a great story about Yates, by the way. That really is. I remember talking to Trevor Linden once, and I said, when did it dawn on you? Like, when did you realize that you were done? Because like after your last game, it still doesn't feel like you're finished. I'm like, when did it really dawn on you that you're not going back to the NHL? And he said, when I was in the dentist chair. And I was getting my teeth fixed, because there's no point in getting your teeth fixed while you're still playing. But once you get your teeth fixed, in his mind, that signaled, wow, I'm really never going back to play in the NHL again, because I am getting my teeth fixed. Okay, we'll finish with story time. And it's become one of the stories at the Olympic Games in hockey, or as they call it there, ice hockey. And that's Kevin Fiala. Surgery on the leg, done for the season. You had Kevin Fiala for a couple of years in Minnesota. Let's finish with story time and your memories of coaching Kevin Fiala. And let me caveat it this way. I know that some coaches have found him challenging. Thoughts on Kevin Fiala? We'll finish that one for story time.
It could be long. I mean, when he was in Nashville, his last year, Paul Fenton became our GM, and Paul Fenton was the one that drafted Kevin. And so he broke his leg in Nashville, left leg. Okay. Yeah. And it really hampered his scoring. So when he came to Minnesota, okay, I mean, at the trade deadline for Michael Granlund, he scored 1 goal in his last 21 games, and I'm like all over him because he wouldn't check, he wouldn't work. And the next year, it just so happened I had to sit him out some games, and he didn't like it at all. But there was nothing left for me to do. Now, in the end, when I was about to get released, I mean, he was averaging like 2+ points a game, and for about 20 games straight, his skill was unbelievable, outstanding. In overtime, I just said, "You get double shifted, you play on the ice, you're that good." But I mean, he is a super skilled player, and the LA Kings are going to really miss him. Like, they're going to go out and get somebody else, because there's no way you trade for what's his name
Panarin.
From the
Artemi
Rangers
Panarin.
and Panarin, and then you lose your second best offensive forward in Fiala, and not go out and get somebody for him. But Kevin Fiala was a great player. Once he learned to understand that there's certain things you can't do. You can't, with a 1-goal lead, try to stick handle through everybody in the neutral zone in the last 10 minutes. Once you learn that, you got to win some battles along the boards, his skill is outstanding. I mean, as good as you're going to see it. He could deke anybody one-on-one, and the problem with him was he tried to. And it works sometimes and it looks great, but you got to have it at the right time of the game to be able to do that. You can't do it with a 1-goal lead with 6 minutes to go at their blue line. So I was really sorry to see the injury, because I ended up really liking him a lot. It was just like, sometimes when you're coaching, you got to go through the rough spots with a player, and you got to bring it all together where he meets you and you meet him, and you meet part way, and everything becomes good. And that's where I was with Kevin. And I hope that he can continue on with playing hockey, because it was such a severe injury when you have multiple fractures in your leg, and it's the same leg that was fractured before. You never know what's going to happen.
We wish him the best, and the LA Kings as well. Yeah, you're right. And I don't think that LA wants Anze Kopitar, who's calling it a career at the end of the season, to end his season after the last regular season game. I think they want him to end his NHL career in the playoffs. Gabby, great stuff. Once again, thanks to Brian Burke for stopping by the program today, Monday, this day that perhaps you're listening or watching is the day off on the men's side, and everything picks up again on Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of the games. NHL comes up. Listen, Gabby, next week we're talking about the gold medal, and we're talking about getting back to the NHL. This is going to be, as you pointed out, an incredible week of hockey. Do you have a final thought on it?
Yeah, I can't wait to watch the biathletes go at the 10-kilometer biathlete shoot-a-thon today. I am going to be sitting close, and I may watch 3 games of curling. I mean, I'm not sure, but I mean...
Wasn't curling better when they had cigarettes?
Oh, they were just, when you could drink and play, it was
Gabby,
drink and play. It was great.
Do you remember Ed the Wrench Wernick, the legend? I think it was from Sudbury, or the great Canadian. Those were the now they're all they've all discovered CrossFit classes, and they all look good, and they're all they're athletes. I miss the old curlers, Gabby. I miss the old ones.
The only thing I used to love about curling was when the women really screamed loud. But that's me.
All right, that's my cue. Thanks for joining us on the Hockey Lifers. We'll talk to you in 7 days.